So like this is back way when I was a lot younger in the 80s, and my older brother was a champion kickboxer. He was like, he was really really good at martial arts and stuff like that. And he actually got invited to go out to Thailand to show off his kickboxing skills against some Muay Thai fighters. And we went over there, and this was like the late 80s, something like that. And he was doing like this exhibition match and stuff like that. Only he severely underestimated the strength and the potential of the native fighters, and he was really badly injured during the fight. The Muay Thai fighter was clearly kind of like in charge throughout the whole fight, and he ended up breaking my brother's back, and he was paralyzed from the waist down for a long time, and it was very very sad. So I did the thing that every brother does, and I decided to learn Muay Thai while I was up there. So I went out into the jungle, met a master who taught me through a series of events how to fight and how to train my body and how to condition myself. And then went back and stopped the fighter myself, and there we go.
Wow,
That
man,
was how I spent the late 80s.
it's crazy, man. You've done a lot of things in the '80s. I feel like your life
Yeah,
is certainly one to live. Sag, says one drunk man. It is sad, but it's a happy ending, right? Jay finally
Ooh,
finished his
very
Muay Thai
nice.
training, and he's competing in Thailand with the best of them. So
yeah,
congrats to Jay on that. We're very proud of you.
yeah, yeah. We got through it. It was a tough time, but we got through it. We got through it. What's a younger brother to do for his older brother?
That's right. That's right. Is that
You gotta look after him, right?
is that just called kickboxer?
It is, yeah.
Is
It's
that
just
Jean-Claude Van Damme? Okay.
Jean-Claude Van Damme. Yeah, yeah.
Martial arts movies tend to be like the only movies I really know because I used to watch a lot of them growing up.
Yeah, yeah. I still think my crowning achievement playing this game is when I did Jaws. And I was
Jaws.
talking about how yeah, I actually convinced a few people in chat that I was an oceanographer and that I'd been and studied marine life and stuff. Yeah, that was quite fun.
Yeah, it's a bit more believable than going to Thailand and
Learning Muay Thai.
learning Muay Thai. And, yeah. Anyways, Dark Heaven Light, thank you so much for that tier 1 sub, man. He says, I am going to get memed to death for not reaching MOQ for my 8th month sub. Oh my god, or 8th month anniversary, rather. Oh, there's no MOQ for subs. 1
No,
month sub,
you can.
awesome. 30-month sub, awesome.
Yeah,
We
it
appreciate
doesn't
y'all.
it doesn't make a difference how many subs you have. It's the fact that you are a sub that makes the difference.
Geo says the bar one was the most believable. That was last week, right? What movie was that?
Yeah,
Tom
Cocktail
Cruise.
by
Cocktail.
with Tom Cruise in. Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is, like half of that is kind of true because I did earn a bar. That was one of my first ever jobs out of college was earning a bar. So that one was kind of based a little bit in reality, a
Yeah.
little bit. But yeah, yeah. I think my most accomplished one so far was definitely Jaws. I can't remember who it was. Was it Jay Shuff, or it might have been Japanese horror writer or someone like that. One of the regular watchers
I think it was
actually
Bledin.
believed that I'd done this. You think it was who? Sorry.
I think it was Bledin.
No, Bledin knows me too well. He would have known that one.
Oh,
Wasn't
okay.
true.
Fair enough. Yeah, I don't remember. Please make Quakeums use a Ferris for a month. What's a Ferris? Please let me know what a Ferris is. Maybe I will. Do I need a Ferris in my life?
Dark Heaven Light says, "Wait, I thought the one about Jay being a sugar baby for this guy with a nice car was real." Ah, yeah, that's a bit of a meme, isn't it? The meme at the minute seems to be that I don't earn my Datsun, which I don't know where this even started, but it's very very silly.
Don't you own like multiple Datsun now? Didn't you just get over?
Not yet. No, the second one's on a boat still. It's
Oh,
still on a
okay.
boat coming from the east. It should arrive in the UK on the 2nd of Feb, and then I should get it around the 10th, I think. All being well, I should have it here at the workshop by about the 10th. Then I'll have to go through a series of tests and checks to make sure it's legal on the UK roads. So realistically, it's probably going to be early April before I actually get to drive it. But yeah, excited for that one.
Kadra says you can send me a PCB when you run some. Okay, so I'm assuming the Ferris is a keyboard. It's on GitHub.
Oh,
Feel
okay,
free to
yeah.
link it, and I'll check it out for sure. In a similar vein, the Pokemon Kid is asking me, whatever happened to learning that steno board? I want to see you hit 300 words per minute. Okay, well, there's a couple issues with that. One, the people that can actually like attain those speeds go to school for many, many years to do this. It's not really something you can just pick up and be like amazing at it. It requires a lot of practice and a lot of training because it's so different from what we know as typical typing. So I don't really have an excuse. I never really tried it. I still have the board, and I still absolutely can. But I think I was just a little bit daunted when I started researching it a bit, and I realized that like I wouldn't learn anything unless I spent weeks and weeks and weeks and months like actually learning and practicing. Which I mean I probably could do and should do because steno is really cool, but I'm not sure there's no way I'm ever hitting 300 words per minute in my life.
Yeah, I don't think I can even think that fast. Like that's crazy.
No, yeah, that's ridiculous.
I'm not sure I could compute the words that fast. 300 words a minute is a lot. Like I have no idea what my reading comprehension rate is, but I'd imagine it's not 300.
Mine's probably not nearly that fast. Yeah. So yeah, it's still something I kind of want to play around with, but like I don't know how exciting it'll actually be to watch, just because obviously I'm going to be terrible at it at the beginning.
That's fun though. I would love to watch you fail at learning steno.
Yeah,
that would be
it'll just be me being like whoops, as I push down 5 keys at once. Whoops. But yeah, no, I totally should.
You just imagine you going whoops, delete.
Yeah. I wouldn't know where the delete key is. I don't know.
And then you press the chord that just happens to end the stream.
It's tough. It's so tough. I mean, for those of you that might not know what steno is, it's a form of typing where you basically type in chords, which can be kind of different things. But normally, you're typing either words or multiple letters or syllables or whatever, like all at once. And it's incredibly complex. It's not just hit a key and it does this. It's you have to hit multiple keys, the right keys at the right time, to be able to generate the word fast enough.
Yeah,
but when people get really good at it, obviously it's not like if you just go watch steno typers on YouTube, it's outrageous how fast they are. But they spend 4+ years learning that.
Yeah, and it's a lot of practice. A lot of
practice.
Yeah, King Friday the 7th says, why Datsun? Why multiple? I collect cars, simple as that. I have a Datsun, a Fairlady Z from the 70s. It's my pride and joy, and now I've got another Datsun coming to join it. Simple as that. Imagine hitting 300 words per minute, writing a dissertation in like an hour, easy. Yeah, okay, so this is where it comes down to the actual comprehension part that I mentioned. You actually have to be able to think that fast as well as write that fast. Like, I think a lot of steno is probably a little bit easier if you're listening and documenting a conversation. Yeah. That is probably a little bit easier than actually actively trying to write something new, like writing a short story or something that we're actually having to think and process and work out how the story is going to interlay and overlap. That's probably going to slow anybody down, I would have thought. If someone can do creative original writing at 300 words per minute live, I'd be incredibly impressed.
Be floored. I would happily see that. I mean, most steno typers aren't even quite that fast. They're usually in like the kind of low to mid 200 range, I believe.
For sure. Yeah
300 is like otherworldly.
Yeah, 300 is crazy, isn't it? Marthake says, if you stick 2 lavender switches up your nose and breathe through them, they smell like lavender.
I'm going to bet against that.
Yeah, I think that's fake news. I don't think that's real.
Would you call that alternative facts?
I would call that definite alternative facts, yeah.
Oh, man. The Pokemon Kid says, we have a guy here in the UK who was learning chords on keyboards. He improved very fast, and he was doing it on a split 10-key split. Interesting. Yeah, I have...
I tried that out at Meetup, and I couldn't use it. Like, he brought it to a Meetup. I think that was Pokemon Kid, Matt. That was London, right? He had that board there, because I tried to type an email, and I just couldn't do it. I think.
Tom says, low to mid 200. Pathetic. I know, right?
Tom's a 400 word a minute.
Kaja has a meeting to go to, says have a great stream. Thanks, man. Have a good meeting. I'm sure meetings are always super fun and enjoyable.
Them can be. I had a good meeting today.
400 words per minute or go home. Oh my god, you guys are nuts. They're actually nuts. We should probably actually start the show, huh? as much as we could talk about Steno for, well, probably not very long because I actually don't know much about Steno.
Tom says, "Yeah, I can do that in my sleep, mate." Yeah, I bet you
I'm
can.
sure. I'm sure. Please.
Actually,
Please
well,
videotape.
while
Very
Tom's here,
nice.
while Tom's here, Tom, just for you, little sneaky.
Oh, we got a little tease there. I like that.
Little tease for Tom.
You know how I feel about teasing, Jay.
Yeah, you love it.
Well, one above all, just subbed with Twitch Prime for 4 months. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate that. All right. So let's get this rolling. I'm gonna start the intro, and we're gonna get into the meat and potatoes, as it were.
Tasty.
I like how as I say that, the tasty sound plays right after I say meat and potatoes. This was meant to be, Jay.
It was. I think.
Hello and welcome everyone to this week's episode of Top Clack. I'm Quakems. That's Jay, and we like to talk about keyboards, and we like to talk to you guys, and we like to just have a good time. So welcome to this episode. We have some interesting things on the dock for you today. We're going to be talking a little bit about Keyset failures as well as environmental sustainability within the hobby. And of course, like usual, we implore you guys to be as active as you want in the Twitch chat. We try to be pretty active with Twitch chat these days. We read pretty much everything more recently, which is pretty awesome. So let us know your thoughts as well and join in the conversation. We're all here. Let's all talk. But anyways, how you doing today, Jay?
I'm good. I'm very much improved in terms of my mental capability when we stream at 9 p.m. instead of when we stream at 2 a.m. It's definitely better, and it's nice to be at this time frame. So yeah, I'm good. Things are busy. I'm at my workshop where I like to be. I've got coffee. I've got you to chat to. I've got chat to chat to. What more could I possibly need in life?
Yeah, I mean,
right
chat.
now,
it's right there in the name.
Exactly,
Chat with chat.
Yeah, right. Chat is right there.
That's right.
I love Chilitas. Thank you very much for that tier 1 sub. 11-month streak. He says, almost that time, boys. Much love. He's only got 1 month more to go, and he gets his first Top Clack birthday.
Thank you so much, man. He changed his name. It used to be something different, right? There was more to that name.
Very nice.
I always remember names.
Not
I don't know
sure.
why. I think it used to be I Heart Chilitas, but anyway.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. I heard Chilitas.
Jay Shuff, thank you so much for the 500 bits. The 500 word per minute bits. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah, we have to hit 500 words per minute now. I don't think we could even do that combined because I top out around 75-ish at best. I think you're a little bit more than that.
If I'm like really in the zone, I'm around 100.
Yeah.
But I mean, normally I'm probably more like 80 to 90. Deported Village Idiot, which is still one of my favorite Twitch names. Thank you so much for the Twitch Prime, man. All right. Let's get into the topics for today. So we're going to start with talking about a little bit Keyset failures, because we've had a couple Keysets fail this month, and while that's not, totally uncommon, I would say it's less common these days, considering how large the hobby has gotten, and obviously how vast we have an array of interests in the hobby. So let's talk about that a little bit. So we had GMK Matcha Mocha and GMK Iconographic. Both failed this month, right, Jay?
Yeah, both failed in their group buys this month. I think both of them are intending to run again. So I think my understanding of it is that they just weren't happy with the sales levels. So the vendors across both of the group buys took the decision to take them off sale, rework on the sets, let the designers go back to the drawing board a little bit, rehash a bit, and then maybe come back with them in the future. I believe that's how it's going to be portrayed. Yeah.
For sure. And we've seen stuff like that before with sets like GMK Rocket, which got taken down to get reworked. What was the other one? GMK Hammerhead, which was kind of infamous for being a very odd kit, got taken down and reworked, and I believe relaunched.
But then it came back and sold 1,000 units.
It was great.
That's the idea to send it around, right?
Very nice.
Yeah, no, it was definitely cool to see, and we always like seeing people that are willing to actually take down and put in the work to redesign a set that might not be quite there yet. It's good to be able to recognize that, because I feel like too often we tend to rush things, and maybe things could go a little bit better if we didn't. So yeah, but we've often talked about this kind of post MOQ world and how we've been moving closer and closer to it. It feels like pretty much every set that runs these days makes it. Obviously, we saw sets like Honderbite do relatively well for what it is, and
Did really well. Yeah.
there's other sets we've seen a lot of hype for stuff like GMK Greg, GMK Space Pepe, sets that are like inherently kind of memey, but people still wind up wanting them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Greg sold 1,000 units in the end with extras. I think there was 1,000 units of Greg. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it might not be for me, but it goes to show you that there's certainly a market for that kind of thing. But it kind of begs the question, like, where are we on our journey for this kind of post MOQ world? Like, how much longer, and what do we need to do? What steps do we need to take to kind of solidify being able to run these key sets? And I know that's a really kind of vague question. It does get a lot deeper than that, and something I did want to talk about in the doc is, what sets deserve to be run? And that's like a really kind of deep question. Is there like kind of a line? Like what? I know the easy answer is just what the market buys, but I think it might be a little bit more complex than that. So,
I'd agree. I think the view on what a successful key set is has changed significantly from 5 years ago to now. You go back 5 years and a key set would have run GMK Monkey, GMK 3 run, all of those kind of things were running about 5 years ago if I remember rightly. Mm-hmm. And what was classed as successful for those sets was making MOQ in group buys didn't have a time limit at that point. They were open until they made MOQ. So making MOQ in a reasonable time frame was kind of the view. It was only when we started to get the big players like Drop and people like that involved where group buys were run for shorter periods. But the idea was you would set up the group buy, you would run it until enough people joined to make it viable. And if more people joined, great. If they didn't, well then it would get there. And some people would buy multiple or whatever to help us get to MOQ. And I think for me the consensus overall as what makes a successful set has changed. If you go back and look at some of those sets in the day, you would have seen that they sold maybe 20 sets in the first 2 weeks, and then over the next coming weeks they would have sold more, and eventually they would have got closer and closer to MOQ. Today, where we're at is that we have professionals that are in charge of running these group buys, and these are companies that are, employing people, and they have to have success. They have to be constantly, generating revenue to keep them going and to pay people salaries and to keep them employed. And that means that there is a much harsher criticism around sets that aren't working, and investing time and effort into those sets if the sales numbers aren't getting close to MOQ relatively swiftly. So it's much more beneficial for all of the people involved to be working on a key set that is going to sell rather than one that's going to struggle to get to MOQ and then have to have things fixed in the back end by people propping it up with their own money. And I think that is a big change and a big phase shift that we've seen in the community. And it doesn't help the smaller sets or the less likely to sell sets when there's so many key sets running, and that's like they're all competing for priority.
Sure. Quick shout out to Pub Goku for the tier 1 sub for 15 months. Says much love. Hope you are both well. Big
Thanks,
hearts.
man.
We hope you are. I'm terrible at making hearts. I don't know how to do this, but big hearts to you, to all of you as well. But thank you so much, Pub Goku. So yeah, let us know, chat. What do you guys think? Like, does every set deserve to get made? Where's the line drawn? This is something I've been kind of curious about for a while, and I'd like to hear some thoughts on it as well.
Yeah, I really, really liked GMK Iconographic. Like, for me, that was a good set. It was in the same camp as Taro and Vaporwave and all of those kinds of sets. And I was absolutely set on buying it at some point during the group buy. And, I was surprised that it didn't make it. But these things seem to be happening still occasionally. And I think post MOQ world is still a hair's breadth away. And I think the bar where post MOQ world is constantly moving away from us. Like if you went back and
the carrot on a stick.
Yeah, it is. It's that carrot on a stick that's moving away a little bit. Because when I first joined Top Clock a couple of years ago and we used to do the news, one of the things we talked about is post MOQ world right there and then. At the start of 2019 we were talking about it. 2 years later and we're still not at that point. And I think that's just because there are more sets running in parallel these days, and that carrot on a stick, that bar, has just constantly just raised a little bit about whether people are willing to fund it with their cash and put up that volume of cash up front, and I think that is moving.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. As we
very
grow,
nice.
obviously, more people are going to want to get involved in projects and make their own projects. Um, thank you so much for all the subs, guys. Clay's gifting a tier 1 sub to Lord. Thank you so much.
Ooh, very
Octagon
thank
subbed
you.
at tier 1. Jack Static subbed at tier 1 for 21 months. Thank you so much. UB Undercover Brother sub tier 1, 16 months. You guys are fantastic. Thank you so much, guys. And Filson as well. Filson GG subbing at tier 1. Are all these people like watching together? I feel like this is really well timed.
Maybe they're all in a voice chat somewhere. There's a couple of comments that I just want to call out here as well.
Sure.
Max Surfy, good to see you back in the hobby, man. Glad to see you around again. He says, I do like the idea of all sets being able to run, but it also clogs the queues at GMK and Key Creative, which in the end hurts us all. If 5 meme sets don't get made and I can get the ones I ordered 8 months faster, so be it. However, on the flip side, Kimchi Jody Boy says, there is no line, nor do I
very
think there should be. The whole point of being able to run buys is to be able to make something you like and others can join if they want to. Be that Modo or Greg, and no one set has more right to run versus the other. And I think these are kind of like the two opposing viewpoints in the hobby, right? Some people feel like the serious sets, the ones that take time to develop, the ones that have meaning behind them, or they have, a serious amount of work put into creating legends and text and icons and novelties and all of this kind of stuff, versus the ones that look like a cartoon character's face. Do they have more merit than each other? I don't think it's for an individual to say whether one has more merit than the other. I think we all have our own opinions on whether that's the case. But as a whole, the hobby seems to be saying that, everything has merit and it should be able to stand on its merit and survive and get made, or
nice.
it should fail on its merits. For example, like GMK Matchamoka and Iconographic did. It seems to be very capitalistic in the way that that's being
It's
managed at the moment.
it's very survival of the fittest. And I kind of agree with
Yeah.
Kimchi Jody Boy here. I think that's kind of just the way it works. Every set, it deserves to have a fighting chance, but it's kind of the fighting chance that everyone involved in the project gives it, right? It's, how much promotion you do, how much you sell the theme, like how invested are people in your set? Is it just some throwaway thing? Is it really just a meme? And, at the same time, you could maybe I'm not the right person to be commenting on this because I'm not a designer, but I feel like maybe from a designer mindset, it could be quite a bit different, being like what sets actually deserve to run. Like, is a meme set of lower quality than, something that, has quote unquote more thought put into it, for example, that's, more worldly, more cultured, for example.
And I don't think quality is the right word. I think merit is probably better. Does a set stand on its own merit? It doesn't have to be high quality. It can be Biso's face. It can be Greg's face. It can be, I can't remember the name of the Patrick the Starfish set. I can't remember what that's called. But there's all of these sets that they have merit to some people and not to others, and then you have the really serious sets, and you've got things like Max Surfy's Keyset that did really well, Cat Refined, where he'd gone to a real ton of trouble to actually correctly align all of the legends, fix all of the mistakes that he perceived and many others perceived across legends in the community and things. And I guess the question to chat is, does the merit between those two differ? And if it does the merit between those two that differs mean that something shouldn't get made? That's the kind of question I want to phrase to chat, I think.
Yeah, you're totally right. Merit is a much better word than quality for that as well. Heiji in chat says, since I'm not in that long in the hobby, has MOQ changed from earlier to today? I feel like, it probably depends on what you're referencing. If you're using GMK sets, for example, I feel like the MOQs haven't really changed. They've always kind of had the 150, 250 mark, or whatever it is. Or the 50, 150, 200, depending on like what the kitting is, I suppose. But I feel like that's all been the same. We're just selling...
Changed. GMK changed it back in 2015, and right after they'd run Triumph Adler, and they changed it. I think this is when they did it. Someone in chat's going to tell me I'm completely wrong on this, but if I remember rightly, it was right after Triumph Adler, and originally they'd had 150 MOQ for key sets for any colors, and then after Triumph Adler came out and the colors were slightly wishy-washy and you could see slight swirls in the plastic, they changed the MOQ to 254 custom colors. I believe that was the set that forced that change. Someone tell me if I'm wrong. I'm happy to be proven wrong, but I believe that was when it changed.
If anyone proves us wrong, it's almost always going to be Twitch chat, and that's totally okay.
Twitch chat just knows these things.
Yeah. Okay. Do you hear some creepy guy saying, "Ooh, thanks"?
That's for us subs. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
our that's a big shout out to Rudy Boy, who's one of the UK OG members. He was kind enough to record all of those for us. There's also Tasty if
Yeah,
you drop bits. I think there's another couple as well if you do donations and stuff like that. So feel free to test out the subs, bits, and subscriptions and donations to hear them all if you want
I
to.
also just want to note that it's not creepy. I think the word you're looking for is sensual.
Yeah, sure. Oh,
Oh man.
very nice.
The Pokemon Kid says, I have found that people are much more willing to wait for the next set nowadays. Back in the day, there was so few sets, and if you missed it, you were outside of many discussions. Now, if something doesn't quite fit my needs, I will wait, as there will be something similar soon. That's true as well. And this is something that Jay and I were talking about before the show. I mean, preparedness, I feel like, comes into this as well. This is something we wanted to talk about on today too. But like back in the day, I say back in the day, but really, 2014, 15, 16, and maybe even 17 era in the hobby, we had so few GMK sets. You weren't running, 5 to 10 to 15 a month. You were running 5 to 10 a year, and everyone knew about it. It was like the cool upcoming thing, and everyone saved their money for it, and everyone talked about it, and they got in on it. And you had so much more time to prepare for things, and I feel like while you do still have comparable amounts of time to prepare for it these days, there are so many more other variables and sets to consider just in terms of pure volume that maybe the average consumer gets a little bit more confused and they're not entirely sure which sets they want to pick up this time.
Yeah, I would bet that there are very few people that could name every set that's running right now without going and looking it up. Like, if you could name every GMK set that's in group buy right now without going and looking it up, I think you'd struggle. Like, I genuinely think you would struggle to do it because there's just constantly 10 or 15 running. But I do agree with the Pokemon Kid, and he'll remember back in the day, because he's from the MK UK channel as well. He's from one of the UK OGs. He'll remember back in the day we did this for keyboards and key sets, and I remember. I can't remember what year it was now, but whenever the original round of the E6V2 ran, and there was like 5 or 6 people who were really active in MK UK at the time, we all bought them and we all had the boards and we all built them, and then we took them all to the next meetup, and we kind of lost that along the way because there's just so many more people and so many more group buys happening and so many more products out there, whether it's key sets or keyboards or anything, that kind of collective enjoyment and joining of a group buy, we've kind of lost that
Certainly
intimacy. Almost it's intimate,
yeah,
right? And we've
no,
kind of lost that.
You're absolutely right. I feel like these days it's all about, I like the colors of this set, I'm gonna buy this set. All right, what's next? Let's move on to the next set. What am I getting next? What else am I getting this month, or what else am I looking forward to? But you're right. It used to be such an intimate thing. Like like for Triumph Adler, people were talking about Triumph Adler for months before, after. Everyone was so hyped, and that set had some issues, to be fair. But regardless, like the atmosphere around the set, the atmosphere around the group buy, it was a very intimate thing, and the community was obviously incredibly much smaller at that point. But it feels like we move past things so quickly nowadays.
And a lot of the excitement for when a set gets ready to deliver seems to have kind of passed as well. Like, people are still interested and they're waiting for the stuff that they've bought, but the overarching feeling is so and so set's going to ship next month, and what board are you going to put it on, and who are you going to match this with, and that kind of intimacy has been lost a little bit. And a couple of people mention that they feel like the J Hambone 9190, Max Surfy, and a few other people, sorry if I missed you all, but they've all mentioned that the long lead times for these sets are one of these contributing factors as well. And the more sets that run, the harder it gets for those lead times to drop down as well. I know when I was looking in Top Clack chat with Eskimojo the other day, there's about 100 GMK sets in the queue that need to be shipped and delivered. Right, these are key sets that have completed group buys, and we're waiting for GMK to manufacture them. There's about 100 different key sets, and that's kind of insane. If you told someone that was in this hobby in 2016 that in 2020 and 2021 you would have 100 key sets in GMK's queue, they would have laughed at you and said that's not even possible because there isn't even 100 GMK sets out there. And now we're doing 15 every month.
Yeah. now we have so much pull with GMK that GMK is like purchasing extra equipment to try to
Yeah.
compensate for how, immense our community has gotten and the
It,
demand
it
that we
it's
want
it,
from them.
So the interesting thing about the GMK thing there is that they released an open letter to the vendors, which a few vendors have shared just before Christmas. And the interesting thing there is we had Andy on the show about a year ago now, and he talked to you about how GMK were improving their efficiency by 25%, and we thought that was huge. And that was basically adding 1 or 2 machines to what their capability was.
Yeah.
And now that letter explains that they're adding 7 new machines to their capability, and they're increasing it by nearly 300%. And it's like, that kind of growth is kind of crazy when you think about it, and it does make me wonder, because Andy said to you at the time, I remember watching this, he said the custom keycap community makes up about 25% to maybe a third, a push of GMK's revenue and business.
He
I
told us
wonder what
that
that
in
number is now.
Seattle in last July 2019 when you came up for the
Yeah.
Seattle meetup, when we were having drinks at a bar with Andy. And
Yeah.
he was saying that at the time we made up about 30% of GMK's consumer base. Look at how much we've grown in that last year and a half.
Yeah, like it's crazy. Like even back then in 2019, we were running 4 GMK sets a month, 5 GMK sets a month, 6, and now it's 15 every month.
Yeah, we're clearly proving that we are a pretty dominant force in the keyboard community.
Yeah, yeah.
Quick shout outs
Uh,
to Clay Damage Point once again, gifting a tier 1 sub to Sour, as well as to Phantom Taco. So thank you so much, Clay. That's several gifted subs for Clay already this stream.
Also, Fropsy subscribed at tier 1, and
Fropsy's-
Singapore as well. Yeah,
I haven't-
Fropsy tier.
Oh man, I haven't talked to Fropsy in forever. I kind of almost thought he left the community.
I think he did
Good.
briefly, and he's coming back. But the
Glad to see you back,
the bottom clunk guys are clearly watching.
Yeah, because Singapore's
I'm
Toki,
just
right?
gonna post it in their chat.
So- shout out to the bottom clunk boys.
Yeah, big up the bottom clunk guys.
Thank you guys so much. Hope you're all doing great.
Yeah, they're all good guys. Curious Yellow asking what's in the cup. It's coffee. I drink a lot of coffee, so it's coffee.
Ooh,
Yeah.
very nice.
Curious Yellow is also asking, isn't GMK Dots a meme set? It was an April Fool set, right?
Yeah.
Take that as you
April
will.
Fools, yeah.
It was an April Fool set, just like GMK Hamon, which did enjoy some success and popularity. Did run.
Hamon's literally just here on my wall.
Yeah, also a meme set from 2 or 3 years ago. There's several too. I think Enjoy PBT Cool Kids, I think was one of them as well. I think that's shipping now, or it's crazy. Like a lot of these sets, they just get ran. I mean, meme or not, if people like a set, they're gonna buy it, right? And that's kind of where we can kind of like we were talking about earlier, where what deserves to be run, and like should meme sets be as abundant as they are, and should they compete with non-meme sets, for example. Hopefully, with all this extra equipment that GMK is picking up, we'll hopefully have a pretty significant reduction in lead times. Obviously, I have no idea if that's going to be true or not, but we can hope. Can you imagine?
I mean,
can you imagine like buying a GMK set and receiving it like 4 months later?
we used to. That's what used to happen.
Yeah.
That was how long the timescale was.
But like today, could you imagine? Like I feel like right now, like if you get a GMK set within 8 or 9 months, it was a really successful group buy.
Yeah, I mean, just to put this into context, I got the shipping notification yesterday for GMK Bleached from GMK to my warehouse, like yesterday, and that site ran in April of last year. So,
Yeah,
that's how long we're expecting, and things are constantly getting delayed. I mean, one of the things that we did put down on our topic, and we haven't really touched on it a little bit at the minute, is the speed at which some key sets are going from interest check to group buy. And we've always had it where some have been announced and then the group buy started almost immediately, purely because of who's been involved. You've had some of the serious designers, you've had your
very
Zampamons,
nice.
you've had your Olivias, you've had all of those people, and you've had Mito as well, and all of those kind of people whose names are really well known for designing key sets. And sometimes after they've had a fair bit of success, sometimes their key sets have gone into IC and group buy really, really quickly, because it's all been agreed behind the scenes with vendors and everything else. I think one of the things that we're probably seeing now a little bit is some key sets aren't having long enough to gestate. And you did touch on this earlier on, Brian, when you said that everyone talked for a couple of months before a key set ran that group buy was happening. And I think one of the things we're potentially losing is that that conversation isn't having time to be had, or the feedback from the community is not being taken on board correctly. And there's not enough time for the key set to evolve from the designer's original idea to something that the community can actually accept and will purchase. That's probably, for me, the pipeline from the design idea to actually being ready to group buy. That's probably not quite the right position. And I think that people are going to struggle more the faster that period becomes, unless the designer is already proven.
Yeah, it almost kind of makes me question as well. Are we at a point where people are kind of just cranking out sets to, just make sets and make money, or do you think that, everyone's kind of still in it and has the same level of intimacy and passion and devotion for all the projects that we're doing? Because it feels like, these days, because of how successful even, I'm going to use the term lesser popular sets, for lack of a better term, like, almost everything makes MOQ. Like, why not make a set?
Nearly everything does, yeah.
Like, why not make a set at that point, right? Like, you're gonna, you can make a set, you can make some money doing it or whatever. And I'm not saying people should do that, because, I don't think that's quite the way to go about it. But
I think over time vendors are going to become more selective. They're going to have to become more selective.
Yeah.
Especially where it's the lead vendor, they're going to have to become more selective. And I know this as well, because it's something that I'm learning. I can give credence to this argument because I'm learning all the time around what should or shouldn't be a key set, and what is the community ready to accept it, and all of this. I'm still learning that kind of thing. But I do think for a lot of the big manufacturers like GMK, like Cat, I think that having a longer IC period and having active engagement with the population in the community, whether that's through Geek Hack or Discords or Keep Talk or wherever, it doesn't matter, but having that sustained conversation and having that really strong feedback that's actionable and identifiable, I think that's really key to making sets that are going to work, and to reducing the number of sets that fail to hit MOQ.
Yeah, let us know in chat, guys. Let us know what your thoughts are, as well as what you'd like to see. What is your ideal outcome for GMK in the future, for example, in our community? Shout out once again to Clay for gifting a tier 1 sub to Tom. It's a 6th gift sub, and I think they're all today.
Guys, a sub, it seems.
Yeah, you're too kind, Clay. You're way too kind. We don't deserve you.
He is. He sold me a keyboard for far cheaper than he should have done recently as well. He's a good guy, Clay. He's too good.
No, that's classic Clay.
Yeah. Curious Yellow says, do GMK justify the cost though? Prototypists are running the Lancelot set, which are about 20% cheaper. Is the premium worth the price? Okay, so take away the fact that it's prototypes. Take away the fact that it's any particular set. What you need to compare is different manufacturers offer different things. So you can it's easier to compare GMK and JTK, for example, because they both make cherry sculpt and they do it in double shot, or now JTK offers triple shot, but they're both in ABS. When you're talking about different manufacturers offering ABS keycaps versus PBT keycaps, irrespective of the profile, it's a little bit different and it's a little bit harder to compare. I think trying to compare apples to triangles is very different than comparing apples to oranges, and the closest you're ever going to get in this hobby is comparing apples to oranges. So it's very difficult, and I think individuals should make up their own mind around what is acceptable quality, what is worth the money, and that's entirely up to you as a buyer. You pay your money, you'd make your choice. That's what I would say to people.
Yeah.
A lot of manufacturers are out there for keycaps. A lot of them have been explored by the community. GMK are a favorite for a reason. They make high quality keycaps that tend not to have problems. We have seen some problems, but they tend to have fewer problems than other manufacturers. But PBT, you've got ePBT, you've got the Geek Arc ones that are doing Lancelot, you've got Infinikey, you've got all the other myriad of manufacturers that you can find all over AliExpress and Taobao. You've got Taihao, loads and loads and loads of different keycap manufacturers.
Yeah. What's kind of interesting right now that I think a lot of people kind of don't really think about anymore, or maybe haven't since it's been so long, but back in 2014, 15, and 16, GMK was actually the cheaper of a lot of the options. I know by today's standards, we tend to think GMK is one of the more expensive options, and I guess all things considered it is. But back when MOQs weren't getting like hit as regularly, and when we did like run a set, it would just barely pass MOQ for for signature plastics, for example, like SP and DSA historically was a lot more expensive per key than GMK at the time. So I think that's one of the reasons GMK started becoming so popular, because SA used to be a lot more popular in the community, at least from what I remember, than GMK. We also had DCS too, because DCS at the time was pretty popular. Nowadays, nobody cares about it. But I think that kind of might have taken an interesting route as well. Just the fact that people didn't want to pay for SA sets because you'd have to pay $200+ to outfit a lot of your boards. Or you could just spend $140 and get a GMK base kit, and it was, it fit almost all of your needs all the time.
Yeah, and I completely agree. And I think one of the solutions to the actual Keyset Q problem is let's start looking at alternative sculpts and profiles, because the DSS Q, the DCS Q, they're both like 8 to 10 weeks. The SAQ is still a bit mad, but there's other profiles and other manufacturers out there that are turning around Keysets really quickly. EPBT, I think, for Retro Cyrillic was 4 months. From group by end to shipping to customers, 4 months. That's the type of position we should be in. So we should look at things like that.
Yeah, and that's a topic for another episode, actually.
Say again, sorry, Brian.
And that's a topic for another episode.
It is, yeah. It is, yeah. There's a couple of comments I just wanted to go through, where King Friday the 7th and then Japani Track both covered this one a little bit. They said, quite a few ICs on Geekhack are clearly just there to reserve a color combination. It's almost like the horror of software patents. Just throw something out there as fast as possible and see what sticks, right?
Interesting.
And then Japani Track says, does anyone care these days if people do that? Almost every new set design looks like something that ran before and no one seems to care. And I think these are both interesting points. I think there is an element of people just putting an idea out there to claim a colorway, and because there's been so many instances where people have been working on things that are similar in parallel, but they've been working in silos and they've not known, and all of a sudden they've spent a whole time and effort on a project, and the day before they talk to someone about it, someone else releases something very similar and puts the interest check up for it. That happens, but that's life, right? That's just how things happen. That's, if you're not being open and sharing with people what you're doing, that can happen. And that happens in every aspect of life, car designers, car manufacturers, it all happens there. Keyboard design, keyboard manufacturers, it all happens there as well. So you just need to, so I can see why people do it, but I think it's more of a case of you just have to say que sera on that kind of stuff.
Fair enough. I missed a sub earlier, actually. Shichinin, thank you so much for the Twitch Prime, man.
Thanks, man.
Appreciate that.
Singapore actually comes up with a really good point as well. He says the problem is that some vendors aren't picky about what sets they run. I think that has a lot of resonance, especially with me, and I think it's a learning experience for most vendors. So knowing what to run, when to run it, who will likely buy it, and how well the set's going to do is a bit of a mystic art, and no one really knows how to put the finger on it. Some people do really well at it. Look at Dixie sets. Dixie sets tend to sell in the thousands. He always does really well. Mike from Novikey is very similar. Some other sets tend to struggle a little bit more, and some of those have found their way to Kono and a few of the manufacturers. A few of the vendors. I think that's a learning experience that people need to go on as a vendor themselves, and they need to discuss it with the teams. They need to understand why things have failed. Like, if things are going to fail, and we talked about this on the show before, and this is a point real close to my heart, if things are going to fail, they should fail fast. GMK Matchmaker and GMK Iconographic did exactly the right thing. They weren't selling, they cancelled it. Job done. Okay, great. If you're going to fail fast. You'll learn more from failure than you will from success. So yeah. I'm not saying that them failing is a bad thing. Please don't read it as that, because them failing actually teaches people more about what the community wants.
And a set can always get rerun too. I mean, if a set fails, it's not like it's over forever, right?
Sure, it can come back.
As we've seen with Hammerhead. Hammerhead is probably one of the best examples in the community of this. Yeah. I mean, that's certainly something to consider, though. I mean, how do you feel about a vendor? I mean, obviously, I don't want to dig too deep into the prototypist side of things, but as in your experience, do you think it's better that vendors run more than one set at a time, or do you think it maybe cannibalizes sales? But let's assume that no matter how many sets a vendor is running, their team can handle that amount of sets. Do you think it would be in that scenario a bad idea to run multiple sets?
I think there's a few points to that. I think you can only give so many different projects so much attention. You only have so much attention to provide, and the amount of attention you can give depends on the size of your company, right? All of these don't come down. Not all of the companies in the hobby come down to just one person. Sometimes they'll have multiple people working for them, so you have more attention than some of the smaller companies, right? I'm just me. Prototype is just one person. It's just me, so I only have my level of attention to give to sets. You took up Mike at Novel Keys. He's got 4 or 5 people working there now. They have 5 times the capacity. Okay, so there's differences from that perspective, but that really comes into its own when it becomes being a lead vendor. So when you're a lead vendor, there's significantly more responsibility, accountability, and control that you need to apply to that project to get it over the line and to get it delivered. If you're just a proxy or a sub vendor or someone who's carrying the set as a favor or whatever, then there is a lot less responsibility and accountability on you. It just comes down to how many sales you have and how many extras you buy, and helping doing a bit of advertising and marketing. I think at that kind of level, there's capacity to do more. And when you're selling smaller volumes and smaller quantities anyway, so for example, the whole of the EU, you might sell, I don't know, 100 sets, and in the US, that might sell 1,000 sets. For that one vendor doing 1,000 sets, that's 10 times the work that the EU vendor is doing for one set. And I'm making the numbers up, but that's 10 times the work. Whether you call it 10 times the work when it comes to packaging, or whether you call it 10 times the work when it comes to dealing with the manufacturer or arranging everything else, it roughly works out with that. There's 10 times more effort goes in at one end than it does at the other end. And that's purely around market size. So I think in the US, when you've got bigger vendors, it's much harder for them to run multiple sets and be in control of multiple sets at once, when compared to the EU vendors, the Asian vendors, where the communities are much smaller, and it's much easier to carry multiple projects at the same time.
Yeah, totally fair. I am me, you are you. Says, hey boys, miss you guys. Heart. Miss you too, man. Glad to see you around, though.
Yeah, we had a good chat the other day, actually. I am me, you
I lurk in his streams a lot more often than he might know. Oh, man. All right, I'm catching up in chat, guys. Sorry, the chat's been moving like crazy fast today, actually.
Yeah, Robert Sensei, Dixie has the name behind it and the advertisement, though. True, he does, but he's built that up from scratch. That's what.
And he's proven that
he's done himself, right?
Yeah,
he's taken that time and effort to build that brand, and he's built his brand. Omnitype as a business are doing really, really well, and he's built that, so that's all credit to him for it.
Yeah. And I mean, he's kind of like the advertisement guru right now, I think, among a lot of the vendors historically. Or at least he was kind of pioneering it back when a lot of the other vendors weren't advertising quite as much or quite the same way. But
he was doing Instagram promotions before half the vendors were even on Instagram, right? He was absolutely out there.
Yes. All right. Curious Yellow says there should be a Keyset standard. Must always have 4 caps lock. Never include mod colored pipes. Did I miss anything? That is sad. I know I'm probably in the minority, but man, mod colored pipe is a must for me on a set if I'm buying it, pretty much. Nathan Alphaman says he's a J simp. We're all J simps, right? I mean, just listen to his voice. Come on.
Nothing special about my voice. Kimchi Jody Boy said, this set had a colour that wasn't colour accurate and people still like it, so I can get away with the same thing. There is more to running a key set than just getting people to commit. If that were the case when it comes, it's just a numbers game. You're absolutely right. Okay, and we are oversimplifying this. Like, this is a whole economy at work. Like, as much as people hate to say this, and they still call it a hobby, they still call it a community, it's an industry now. It has become that point where it's an industry. Like, that's an unspoken truth, it seems, at the minute. And you're absolutely right. There is more to running a key set than just saying, here's my design, there you go, vendor, sell it, let's wait 6 months for it to deliver, or 12 months as it is right now. There is more to it than that. You're absolutely right, and that's why I like to see people like Neb get involved and do some color matching when the colors are kind of difficult and things like that. And that's why I would rather some sets take a little bit longer and actually come out how the majority of people are expecting it to look, than things be rushed and it come out somewhere falling short of that bar.
Yeah. Also, on a side note, I also love to see Neb do the color science that he's doing, and he will actually, hopefully, be an upcoming guest on Behind the Keyboard. I've been talking to him about it lately. So
Excellent. Yeah.
I kind of want to pick his brain
Okay.
about a little bit of that science, and it should be a pretty good time.
Yeah. Rabbit Sensei says, I want to know how Krelbit is going to ship Muted R2 on his own since he's a one-man army. Yeah, it's interesting. I think Krelbit is an army. Like, he's... I've met him in real life. He's very sweet, and yeah, shipping that amount of sets is going to take him some time. But he's a clever guy. He's going to plan for that. He knows now how he's going to approach that when it arrives. He's not just going to wait until they get there and then go, fuck, what do I do now? He knows how he's going to handle it.
It's not his first rodeo. He's been doing it a while now.
Exactly, right? Like, I mean, Handabite might not have been as successful, but he sold some successful key sets, right? He knows how he's going to handle it, how he's going to ship it out.
Do you remember he had the Handabite shirt at the Seattle meetup?
He did, didn't he? Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah. Don't talk to me about this.
It said, how did this make MOQ? And like the text was all in Handabite colors. Oh, it was pretty great, actually.
Yeah, but like, speaking as a one person vendor here, what I know right now that GMK Bleached is going to arrive at the warehouse on Monday. So what am I doing? I spent 2 hours today folding up boxes just before the stream in preparation. So I know as soon as that comes and I unseal the GMK boxes, I can start dropping keycap sets into boxes ready to seal up to go out to customers. And I know that I can turn it around for customer shipments, receiving them on Monday. For UK and rest of the world customers, EU is a little bit more difficult because of Brexit. But I know that if Brexit wasn't a thing, I could ship those out within 2 days. Like, they arrive on Monday, by Wednesday morning they're all gone. That because you plan in advance and you work for that.
Yeah. Adkim64 is saying, or asking rather, if it's an industry, can we move to an in-stock model yet? I don't think we're quite there yet. I think we're there for some things sometimes, but we're certainly not there for everything.
In stock's an interesting one because it's not just about having stuff in stock. Okay, it's deeper than that. The tastes of this hobby change so drastically from week to week that actually stocking something and putting it in stock and having it as a regularly stocked item is really difficult. Key switches are probably the closest exception to that, but key sets, you could invest, tens of thousands of dollars into a key set that's really popular right now, and it's not going to get made for 12 months. And then when it arrives, is it going to be just as popular? Like, the number of extras that people buy tend to be increasing over time, and that's moving us closer and closer to an in-stock model. And some of the designers I've spoken to recently have had some really, really clever thoughts on this as well. So I'm going to shout him out, but Break has been really, really helpful in thinking about this and coming up with some ideas. But to have things in stock is risky because you don't know if that's going to sell or not. You don't know if it's going to take a week to sell out, a day to sell out, an hour to sell out, or if you're still going to have that stock in a year's time, especially when you have to wait a year to actually get it. There's very few industries where you order stock in as a company to store and put on your shelves and sell that it takes more than a couple of months for it to arrive at your door. And it's a really difficult proposition to be able to do that right now because the tastes of the community change so quickly. How do you know where it's going to be in 12 months' time?
Yeah. There's a lot of trends in our community that really do come and go. A lot of fads, I guess, is the more appropriate word.
Yeah, like as a vendor, how do you decide how many extras of GMK Greg you're going to buy? Like, it's great. It's being bought out. Everyone's buying it right now. But is everyone going to want it in a year's time when it gets delivered? How's the community going to feel about that set in a year's time?
That's true. It is worth noting that usually once a set arrives and people start putting it on their boards and taking pictures, and then that's when the community is kind of brought back to that set, right? Because a lot of the time we'll buy a set and then we'll forget about it because we have to wait 8, 9, 12 months for it or whatever. So everyone kind of just forgets about it, and then it shows up, and then it's hype again. It's popular for at least a small amount of time. And once people start seeing it on other boards, nice pictures, they're like, oh, okay, that's nice. Maybe I want that as well. Maybe I can take a chance at an extra or something. And by that time, you're gonna have a lot more people in the hobby, anyways. You're gonna have people that A, missed the original group buy, or B, didn't even know the original group buy existed. So, you're pulling in more of a consumer base as well, just as time goes on naturally.
Yeah, yeah, and I think Max Effie comes out with a great point as well here. He says, because I did oversimplify things there, and he said, what about sets like GMK white on black being in stock? It will always sell well. People are always going to be looking for it, and I completely agree. Black does not go out of fashion when it comes to key sets. People will always want it. Black on white, white on black, 9009, and a Dolch set. Those four, in my opinion, no one owns the rights to them. Anyone can run them. It's fine. It's open. And I know I've spoken to Jim K about this before. Those are the types of sets that it would be really good to have for vendors to just be able to purchase from GMK at any given time. The challenge is that GMK don't have the capacity to produce the group buy sets as well as produce all those sets that we know would sell. The stuff that you could hold in stock without risk of never being able to sell. So the real issue comes back full circle to what we were talking about right at the very beginning, which is GMK's queues and other Keyset queues are too long to be able to resolve, and I think that is the long and the short of it.
Yeah, well, I mean, ideally we kind of grow together, right? And like, obviously the queue times for GMK are getting pretty astronomical right now. GMK is trying to rectify that by getting more equipment to, you know, produce things at a higher rate for our community, ideally. So, yeah, it's, I think, as deep as we are into this hobby and as much time as, you know, we've kind of perceived that has gone by, I still think we're kind of like at the beginning of like where this hobby really takes off and kind of how it's shaped. And I know it's kind of odd because, like, you know, we've been in the hobby for, you know, 4, 5, 6 years, 7 years at this point, almost coming up this year. So it's
been
like
streaming for 4 years now. 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, Top Clack started in 2016. I got in the hobby somewhere in 2014, and it's like it feels like that was the beginning of the hobby, but now that feels like a prequel. And like it feels like we're actually starting the hobby now. Like, in my eyes, it feels like we're kind of just now starting to shape things, starting to have some more standards maybe, and like people are maybe starting to agree on things a little bit more. Even though it does seem a lot more hectic as well. With that said, we do have another topic today. Do we want to move on to that?
Yeah, I'm ready to move on.
We're about
chat if you've got any questions about that one, about the key sets that we talked about. Save it till the end, and we'll talk about it in the Q&A section if you've got any questions.
Yes, we will definitely do a little bit of a Q&A at the end as usual. So the next topic we kind of want to touch on and discuss with you guys, of course, is environmental sustainability within the hobby. Obviously, it's something that a lot of people really care about, and you know, I completely agree. I'm a big fan of recycling and kind of reducing the carbon footprint as much as possible. And, you know, I think a lot of people are in agreement with that. And we have seen some things in our hobby kind of move towards that. We've seen, obviously, more recently, I mean, I guess it's not super recently, but GMK trays, those have shifted to be, it's potato starch, right? Is that what it is now?
Yeah, it's a starch-based product, yeah.
Yeah, so we went from plastic GMK trays to a you know, a potato starch tray, which, you know, doesn't sound like the most delightful thing ever, and a lot of people still have issues with it. But at the end of the day, it is a lot more environmentally friendly at the very least. And we've also seen you know, sets you know, try to bring some awareness to it, as well as some proceeds like GMK Coral, for example, Enjoy PBT Ivory, things like that. Have done a pretty good job at helping with the environment. But yeah, Jace, so what is your take on this? And like, I also kind of want to pose this question, not only for you, Jay, but for the chat as well, just to kind of get things rolling. But as a whole, how bad do you think our hobby is, like, overall, for the environment? Because obviously we dabble a lot in materials, and we manufacture a lot of materials.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point. Like in the grand scheme of things, it's probably a drop in the proverbial ocean, right? But that doesn't mean to say we aren't responsible and shouldn't be held, and we should be held accountable. Sorry, we should be held accountable for the amount of wastage and, you know, emissions that are used to produce the products that we buy. We're consuming products that are damaging the environment in some way, shape, or form, and we should be, at the very least, be aware of that. Is my view, and I think we have seen some great things in the community. So I know from speaking to vendors and designers, people have this in their mind. They want their products to be sustainable, and they want to take steps to do it. I've talked with Leandrin about this a little bit as well, and I've talked with Lewis from Hand Engineering, who designed the house in the UK, and I've talked to a few other people as well, and everyone seems to be kind of understanding that this is a challenge that the hobby is going to face, and we need to take real action. We only have one environment, we only have one Earth. We don't have a spare one that we can just hop onto. You know, Elon Musk hasn't fixed that for us yet. He might fix GME, but he hasn't fixed you know, the Earth as yet, or given us another place to live. So we need to be aware of it at the very least, and if we are conscious enough about it, we should be taking steps to try and do that. And there are a load of companies and a load of resources. For example, I know after speaking to Salvan, he uses a company called No Issue, which creates really nice bespoke packaging. They do crepe papers and tissue papers and all sorts of other really nice packaging, but it's all carbon offset, and I use them as well. But you know, it's worthwhile talking about other people that are using them too. So Salvan uses them, and he wraps his board in this nicely branded Salvan wrapping paper that's all environmentally friendly. It's carbon offset, it's fully carbon neutral. The company does all sorts of outreach and everything else, and it's a great product at the same time. And those opportunities are everywhere around us, and we need to be understanding a little bit more about how that fits into how we consume within the hobby, and maybe even selecting what we buy based on how we feel about how green that product might be.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people in chat right now already that are kind of disagreeing with me on the GMK trays. Guys, I'm not saying the GMK trays are good. I'm not saying they're perfect. I'm saying that GMK tried to take a step towards something more environmentally friendly versus not doing so. I do realize that most people prefer the original plastic GMK trays because they could reuse them, and you know, in a sense, that is obviously more environmental friendly if you're, you know, actually using your products. You're not just throwing them away. But what we're trying to talk about today is the sense of, you know, vendors or, you know, individuals, the hobby as a whole. You know, what can we do? What steps can we take to actually move forward to make the hobby overall more environmentally friendly? And I know the GMK trays are ridiculously controversial, and most people don't like the new potato starch ones. But the fact remains, you know, they are trying to make a stand for it, and they are trying to take a step towards the right direction. However, that step wound up going, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and it's a really interesting one as well, because a lot of this I've been trying to work out for a long time, what is the carbon footprint of making one keyboard out of aluminium, and it's really, really difficult to kind of pinpoint that. You can kind of guesstimate and estimate how much energy you've used to produce it, but is that the real cost of the footprint? It's not, because there's what was the energy used to produce the aluminium in the first place? How many trees did they chop down in the Amazon to melt the aluminium slag and produce the ingots out of it? You know, extrude the metal. You know, it's really, really difficult to get right down to brass tacks to talk about these things. My choice of words is really terrible.
Were you planning that one?
But there are some things we can do, and you know, we can call on the people in the hobby, and whether that be the individual sat at home or the vendors in their warehouses, you know, we can do some things, such as the energy that we use. We can carbon offset that. You know, you can reach out to your energy providers, you can carbon offset it. You can, you know, reach out to companies like 10 Tree, No Issue, and a few others, and you can buy their products. There are a load of startups as well where you can buy and plant trees and stuff like that. There's a whole pipeline of trees being planted right the way across Africa, like 3,000-mile long strip of land that they're trying to populate with trees across Africa. You can donate to that, and you can plant trees and everything else. And by doing so, we will be carbon offsetting the energy that we're using and the products that we're making. And it doesn't just have to be in keyboards. You can consider it in other elements of your life as well. For example, when I ship anything, I ship with DHL for 99% of all of the stuff that I send out, and it's 1,000 packages plus a month, and they all get carbon offset. Like, the DHL has a program where you can donate money at the same time as buying the shipping, that is then reinvested into planting trees, making clean drinking water, all sorts of other carbon based initiatives as well. And I think we should try and be as sustainable as possible in those kind of positions. Look for opportunities to be sustainable. Don't just sit back on our laurels and accept that that's just how things are.
Yeah, I completely agree. Mart Hike is asking, what do you think of GMK's new packaging? I feel like it's just forcing us to buy more boxes, creating more waste.
Yes and no. I think there's two answers to that. Like, if you throw a GMK box away, the carbon footprint of that box is the energy it costs to make it, which is very little because of the way it's produced. It's a starch pulp. It's made from waste materials, so that's recycling already. And if you throw it away, then it's basically going to decompose and go back into the ground pretty quickly. Like within a year or so, it's going to be completely gone. Whereas if you did it with one of the old GMK plastic trays, it will be there in 500 years. So there are elements to it that do make it more environmentally friendly. Whether it's a good product or not, as Brian said earlier on, is a completely different matter. I mean, as a product perspective, I hate the new GMK.
I don't like them either. Yeah, they're just not that good. But
at least GMK are trying.
They're
right?
trying.
They're trying something.
And maybe 6 months or 12 months from now, they'll have a new design that's just as environmentally friendly or more so, and maybe it'll be better. Who knows? At least they're trying something, which is a lot better than doing nothing. Trying to go through. There's a lot of discussion in chat today. This is great, guys. It's just it takes us a second to actually like read through some of this and catch up. A lot of people have very strong opinions on this.
They do. I was just looking. Rabbit Sensei said it reminds me of recycled paper. Making recycled paper is more bad for the environment instead of cutting a tree down and planting two. So that depends on the paper. It depends on how it's been recycled, and the big factor in that one is, has bleach been used? I buy all recycled packaging, so any box that ships out from my warehouse is recycled packaging, and I make sure from the manufacturer that it is not bleached, because that's the bit that's more harmful. The actual carbon footprint of recycling the material itself, as long as it's a non-bleached paper product, is significantly lower. And I've worked with the company I mentioned before, no issue to look into this as well, and some of the other bits and pieces as well. So it really does depend. And this is the funny thing. It's really hard to get the real information out, because it's so difficult to understand which is better for the environment. Making new every time, making something once that lasts, or making something that's disposable but that biodegrades really quickly, and then making another one. What's the right answer out of those three options? And it really does depend and differ depending on the product you're manufacturing and its use case.
Yeah. Teotich is saying carbon neutral is not the same as environmentally friendly. It just means you take measures to absorb the same amount of CO2 you emit. You could have carbon neutral manufacturing and still destroy ecosystems for the raw materials, but it's a good step toward less impact on the environment. Yeah,
you're right. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I mean, it kind of leads us into our next question here, is like, as individuals, as not just individuals, but as a group, as a community, as a hobby, what could we be doing, and what should we be doing, and what are some of the things maybe you guys are already doing to try to kind of minimize your carbon footprint, or move towards the carbon neutral kind of mindset here? I'm definitely curious, because I'll be honest, it's something I care about, but it's not something I've really spent a lot of time thinking in the constructs of our keyboard community. And now that we're kind of having this discussion, I'm kind of curious to know what other people have been doing, what other people could be doing. Some things that maybe I could be doing, obviously, to maybe better this whole environment through the hobby as well. Curious Yellow says Quake glasses over Jay's glasses. Yeah, except Jay's way cuter than I am. So that's all I have going for me. Actually, fun fact, and longtime viewers will remember this, but these glasses were actually picked out by Rama. Not a lot of people know that.
Nice.
Total. There's your random top Clack fact for the day.
Mine were picked by my wife, so there you go.
I wish my wife was Rama.
Yeah, mine are just carbon fiber Ray-Bans, nothing special.
Yeah, mine are nothing crazy either. But I have they're super nerdy. I have a little division sign, a little multiplication sign there. They're very very dorky glasses.
See, you can wear rounded glasses. I can't wear rounded glasses. I have to have square frames, otherwise they just make me look weird.
Yeah, I need the big the thick frames though, otherwise my face looks too fat. Anyways, awkward glasses conversation aside.
Pokemon Kid says next board I sent to Jay is going in a paper bag only because that bubble wrap damaged the environment. Okay, so he's making a joke about someone who actually shipped a PCB to me in a jiffy bag and expected it to work when it got to me.
Wow.
But yeah,
I don't know what to say to that. Take them off real slower. Oh my god, you guys are crazy.
There you go.
Confirm Quakeums loves math. Actually, ironically, I don't really like math very much.
Really? I'd thought you were a bit of a math geek.
I don't know. I didn't do super well with math in school. It just never was really my thing.
That's fair. That's fair. Anwar94 says, I love ceramics and I'm interested on key projects with new materials. Yeah, so there's a lot of new material science going on in the keyboard hobby, and there always has been. For example, Jack Static, I think he's in chat, actually. I'm sure I've seen him post. He's working with some impressive new materials. I've sent Salvan some new materials that are recycled plastics and things like that. And there is opportunity within the materials that we choose to be more environmentally friendly. We don't have to use big blocks of aluminium and big blocks of brass and copper and stuff like that. We can use other materials. It's not always appropriate, but it's certainly appropriate at some points in time. And I know a lot of people are working on that. So, yeah.
Yeah. And new materials are always something I like to see in the community as well, because new materials lead to the change in overall typing experience. And that is, in my opinion at least, the most interesting part of the hobby is what a keyboard is like to actually type on as a whole. Anyways, want to buy decent eyes? Ugh, same. Keyboard out of reclaimed leather. I've seen leather used in keyboards before, but it was a very obscure project. I'd like to see more leather used.
3 or 4 projects. Yeah, so leather covered wrist rests. I've seen quite a few of those.
Oh, true.
And leather desk mats actually. So I'm counting them as kind of one, like leather covered wrist rest, leather style desk mats.
But how many keyboards have you seen?
Say again?
How many keyboards have you seen that have included leather?
2.
Nice.
One was a project I worked on with someone where instead of having bump-ons on the feet and instead of having like strips of rubber like we see on the Rama boards and other things, they actually had like the whole internal area of the base was milled by like a millimeter and raised up by a millimeter, and they had like a thick pad of leather epoxied to the base and then shaved to nicely fit flush. So the keyboard was actually sat on a leather base. That was really, really, really nice. It was not cheap for the leather that they used. And it's highly unusable as a process for manufacturing because it needs to be done by hand and it adds a lot of cost and time, but it was really nice. And then the other one was this is one that I saw today, and in fact there was 2 keyboards that stood out. There was some big Chinese collector, and he has a Philco that's got green fake grass all over it, and there was also one there where the keyboard had been wrapped in leather.
Interesting. Nice. Dutcom says leather switch plates, super flexy. I can't even imagine what typing on a leather plate would be like.
So when I was doing the original JO1, and you might remember this, Brian, but I tested loads of different materials. We actually tested stuff like for the gaskets, whether you could use stuff like materials like denim,
Sure.
polyester as like clothing materials like denim. We tried leather gaskets and things like that. A lot of it doesn't work or doesn't feel great or doesn't sound great, so we never went back to it. We tried about 40 different materials.
Wow.
Leather was one, denim was another, like a polyester cotton mix was another. That was really, really bad. That was just really slippery and just you couldn't get it to adhere to anything. Yeah. And there's a reason why people stick with rubbers and nitrile rubbers and poron and stuff like that. There's a reason for it.
But someone out there needs to experiment. They need to try, because you never know when you're going to stumble across like something really awesome for the community.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Vogon, what's up, man? Glad to see you. Hello to you.
Vogon's here. Oh.
Yes.
I was thinking, Vogon, about you earlier on because I was like, I haven't seen him in MK UK for a while. I wonder if he's all right. I'm glad to see you.
So I dream about his voice every night. So he's like always kind of with me. Yeah. Yes, exactly. All right. Well, I think that's probably a good time to move over to our sponsor segment. Of course, we're going to do a Q&A after that, and we can keep talking about either of these topics if you'd like. If you guys have more thoughts on them, more questions, of course, put those in the chat. Get those in right now. Start tagging right now at @TopClack so we can see the questions a bit easier. And we can talk about whatever, guys. You know, just let us know. Just let us know. All right. First and foremost, we have the one, the only, the wonderful novel keys. who has a few things going on this month. They are doing the Box 75, which is a very, very interestingly designed 75%. So if you're looking for something a bit more on the unique scale, this could definitely be pretty interesting. I totally forgot to reach out to Mike. Oh my god, I'm gonna do that after the stream.
You're supposed to be getting one of these in. Mike agreed to send you, and you need to message him.
Yeah, no, I'm totally stupid that I forgot to do this. I'm gonna do this right after the stream. But yeah, so I might be getting a prototype of this to be able to check out on stream, and if I do, of course, obviously you guys will be along for the ride. So this will be pretty interesting. Jay and I have some reservations about how the typing experience will go, but Mike seems to think it's going to be pretty good. So I'm very much looking forward to this, and it is absolutely gorgeous. So pretty cool about that. Next up, they have the Breaking Bad series desk pads. These are officially licensed, so not the first officially licensed product we've seen from Novel Keys, but it's always kind of cool to see that. So if you're a fan of Breaking Bad, these desk mats could totally be for you. I've never seen the show, so none of these actually resonate with me. I'm sorry, but they definitely.
Me and my wife are watching through it right now.
Are you?
We're just on season 3, episode 8 for those.
Is it pretty good?
Care, but yeah. I've watched it before. I watched it when it was first on, and I really enjoyed it then. So yeah, I'm getting the wife to watch it now. She's enjoying it too.
Kimchi Jody boys yelling at me because I've never seen it. I feel bad. I haven't seen a lot of like the really popular show. I've never seen The Walking Dead. I've never watched Dexter either. Like all those like really popular shows. I've just never really got into them. Anyways, moving back over to Novel Keys, they have other things going on as well. GMK Awaken is in Group Buy right now. And it also has an accompanying NK65 if that's your total jam. If none of those excite you, then they definitely have lots of other stuff in stock. Desk mats, switches, stabilizers, films, lube, PCBs, you name it. They have quite a few things going on right now. And if you're buying something in stock, make sure you use the promo code Clack because it shows that you love us and it'll give you 5% off your order.
Absolutely. Moving over to our second sponsor of the night, it is the wonderful people over at Kono. So right now they've got a few things going on. There are GMK key sets in Group Buy for GMK Storm and GMK Gateway. Gateway is one of 2 sets that we've seen quite recently that's been inspired by the game Portal. So if those are up your street, you might want to take a little dip into those and pick one of those sets up. As well as that, continuing the key set trend, they also have EPBT Soju, which I'm not quite sure what the inspiration behind this set is. Brian, are you able to shed any light on that? This one?
So I'm not an expert on this, but if I'm not mistaken, Soju is a Korean wine, an alcoholic beverage that I think is made from rice, but I could be wrong. But someone in chat will obviously correct me on that. But I'm pretty sure it's kind of like Korea's version of like Japanese sake, for example. I've never actually had soju, but I have a lot of friends that really like it.
Interesting. The key set actually reminds me of one of my favorite key sets of all time, which was GMK cream cheese and chive, which is
wait, cream cheese and chive or cream cheese and green?
Yeah, right.
Oh man, was it actually called cream cheese and chive? Because that's amazing.
I don't know. I just like to call it that. I don't know if it was actually called that, but I still can't find a set. If anyone ever finds a set of that, I will buy it off them. As well as that, Kono all have all of the other things that they usually have, including the EVO2 switches, which are still on pre-order. You can pick those up now, as well as all of the keyboards that they usually sell as well. So the Hex Gears sets and everything else. So if you're interested in something like that, please do go check them out.
Yeah. Heck yes. All right, moving over to KBD fans, who doesn't actually have a ton of things going on right now. If they are your preferred vendor, Enjoy PBT Soju is also running here as well. But more interestingly, I've taken a look at their coming up screen, and this, like I mentioned last week, this is something really interesting to me. So they have a new design stabilizer coming out. It doesn't look terribly new. It still looks relatively like the MX footprint, but it is a different design, and that automatically makes me interested. These look super good, and I'm definitely going to be reaching out for a sample, and hopefully they can send some over and we can give these a try, because man, if there's one thing the community really needs like right now, it's a really good stabilizer. I feel like, because we've just been living in the past, man. Enjoy PBT Ramen Stop also coming up. I know this has been in interest check for a while, so that's finally going to be happening in the near future, as well as lots of other projects. And if you're new to the hobby, this is definitely a store I highly suggest, because there are lots and lots of projects in stock. Whether you want PCBs, plates, cases, switches, stabilizers, you pretty much name it, they are going to have it, and they're probably going to have it at a really reasonable price as well. So if you're trying to ball out on a budget, or maybe you're newer to the hobby, you don't have a ton of money to spend, I definitely suggest KBD fans as one of your first stops.
Yep, and moving over to our final sponsor of the day, it is the wonderful Leandrin Mechanisk. Now, you might be able to see Leandrin on stream with Brian and I on Sunday in place of my usual build stream, where we're going to be doing a dual build stream of the new Mechanisk board of the Tinned. Brian's board and mine both arrived this week with all of the accoutrements, stabilizers, PCBs, and everything else we could possibly want. So we're both going to be building the board live together at the same time, and Leandrin is going to be our very, very special guest. So please do come and join us for that. We'll talk more about the details and timings towards the end of the show. As well as that, you might want to check out Mechanisk because they have got a few things on store right now. They have the new plates for tray mounts, the E Ultra Hot and the E Ultra Hot and Ultramarine colorways, so you can pick up those trays for the tray mounts on there as well. There's a few different options depending on what you're looking for, but you can certainly pick up those as well. They've also got the new Duroc Ultramarine stabilizers 2, which are available straight away. Brian, I think we both got a set of those with our tins, and I've used them before in the past. They're pretty good, but they look really nice as well.
Yeah, I like them because the housing is translucent, but the actual insert is opaque. I think that makes for a really nice combination.
Correct.
I'll be using them in my tins as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And as well as that, there's also the WT60D PCBs that are in stock as well. Now, this is designed by Wilbur. It's quite possibly one of the best fully featured PCBs on the market right now for a 60%. It does ANSI, it does ISO, it's got flex cuts, it supports pretty much all of the popular layouts. And it's a Wilbur PCB to boot.
Yeah, USB-C, VIA, it's just gorgeous too. Absolutely love this.
And it looks great, yeah.
All right, well, there you go, guys. Good stuff. Let's get back to this Q&A, of course. If you guys have questions, please feel free to keep those going. Use the @TopClack tags so my blind eyes can please see these. Because I'm totally blind. Totally blind. All right, guys.
I think the first question comes from Static Age, and he said, thoughts on seeing more sets include a light 40s kit in the base kit and Alice in the base kit as well. So what do we feel, how do we feel about designers including additional keys to support 40s users and Alice users in the base kit?
Oh man, that's always such a divisive question, I feel like, because you're going to have people on both sides of the extremes, as it were. I mean, I'm kind of the mind where I'd rather see, the really cut down base kits. I like spending $100 or less on a base kit because for me, I'm a really basic user. I don't need 40s stuff. I usually don't need Alice stuff or anything like that. But I get that other people need them, and it is often more cost effective for the consumer to buy one single base kit that has additional support versus, let's say, a cut down base kit as well as, 1 or 2 or 3 child kits alongside that. So I don't know. I would like to move towards a realm where we can kind of support everyone with a base kit, but I know that's pretty unrealistic just based on, how many different layouts there are and how many different preferences among people there are. So that's a really tough question, but I think at the end of the day, I'd like to see 40s and Alice kit, or Alice keys rather, in base kits, and we have seen that plenty of times already, and I think it tends to work out relatively well. And even though it makes people like myself have to spend $20, $30, $40 more for a key set, a lot of other people get to spend $30, $40, $50, $60 less on that same exact key set, and at the end of the day, it's totally fine.
Yeah. As a minority layout user, ISO, I feel this sometimes. So I feel for people who use 40s and Alice layouts when it's not included, but I can completely understand the economical reasons as to why some key sets don't include much support beyond the traditional ANSI TKL kind of layout. It makes sense from a financial perspective. Those sets tend to sell better. Personally, I like to see a fully featured base kit, and I don't mind paying a little bit more for that. I'd rather have keys that I'm not using right now that I might want to use in the future, all as part of that base kit for a better all-inclusive price than I would have to buy every kit in a group buy. But that's just my personal feelings. I completely understand the economics as to why it's not done. I think you can cover most 40s with very, very limited number of keys. I think it's less than the actual number of keys needed for UK ISO. So as long as you add the right keys to the base, you can do that. Alice is just a couple of keys as well. So for the space bars and the B. And of course, we see a lot of the F-13s now in base kits as well. So I think I think constant change and adaptation to how we perceive a true base kit is a good thing for the hobby. And as keyboard kind of tastes change over times, I think the keys included in the base kits will change as well. I think we've seen a lot of evidence of that over the past couple of years, and I think that's a good thing.
This is just a question from my curiosity to you, Jay. Do you ever think we're going to move towards a world with GMK, for example, where they will change the way they do MOQ to something more akin to like what Cat does? Because if you look at Cat sets, the really cool thing about that, let's say you're a 40s user, you actually spend less on your kits overall as a 40s user if you buy a Cat set than, let's say, if you're buying like, you know, a WinQ that's TKL or like, you know, a Sangon 60% or whatever. And that's always kind of interested me too, because like usually you'll spend anywhere from like $80 to $100 on 2 or 3 kits, and you know you can outfit a lot of the standard boards. But if you're a 40s user, oftentimes that's a lot cheaper. You wind up only spending like $40 or $50 or $60 on a cat set. Do you think there's ever going to be a world where 40s users can spend under $100 on a GMK set, or do you think it's just destined? You're going to have to pay for everything.
It's a difficult one. My honest answer is I don't know. I don't think GMK will change their MOQ requirements anytime soon. What I think might change is the fact that we see the 40s community is always growing, okay? And the 40s Discord is massive. It just needs those people to get the right weight behind it to produce the right sets. And what I suspect we might have is maybe stepping base kit. So instead of having just a base kit or 2 different colored base kits, maybe you offer a key set that has 3 different base kits. You have the basic base kit that just does ANSI TKL. You have a base kit that offers, you know, the ANSI TKL, the numpads, and some basic ISO support. And maybe you have a third base kit that offers the full, you know, the whole kit and caboodle. Maybe that's something to explore, but I can't see it going any other way. I just think as the numbers get higher, the opportunities to have, you know, more kits running alongside each other will happen. The challenge with GMK is that they have kind of like a bare minimum for a number of keys to be included in a base kit, and they will only sell. See, child kits are really difficult with GMK sometimes, and it's not as easy to do as with the Cat.
Yeah, I only really kind of posed the question just because of almost like what we were talking about earlier with how big of an impact we're starting to have on GMK in terms of like their overall, you know, consumer base and revenue, that I wonder if there's going to come a time where we have enough pull where we can be like, hey, maybe we can change the way MOQs work. Maybe we can set it up like this and it'll work, you know, a little bit better for everyone overall. Because I feel like, you know, we're just kind of doing the same thing we have always, and while it more or less works out for us, I do think there is probably a better way to do it. I'm not sure the community will ever agree on one singular base kit that is to rule them all. Like, it's probably never going to happen, and I think that we need to start looking at potential alternative paths, you know, to maybe get those people some cheaper key sets, because I think it's kind of unfair that, like, if you use a Plonk, for example, like, you know, to get proper coverage, you have to pay even more than, you know, $140 or whatever as a GMK base kit. It would be really cool to kind of see it scale more like price per cap versus, you know, what layout you're using.
I experienced it on stream this week. I was building a 40% on stream this week, and I experienced exactly that. I could not get keys that would fit in the right spaces and the right profile from a standard GMK set.
Beautiful board, by the way.
It was really frustrating. Say again, sorry?
Beautiful board, by the way.
Thanks. This
really
is the
nice.
Oceanographer by Headgy. It's really, really nice.
Really cute.
And this, look at the weight design on this.
Oh, that's
it's got the ships.
Okay, that's super cool. It's almost a little reminiscent of the like the kind of piratey theme of the Satisfaction.
Yeah, with the thing, it's a chunk though. Is this case? It's super heavy. For the
that
size.
Weight looks enormous.
Heavier than it seems to be. Okay.
All right.
Just jumping back through chat. A few people seem to think they like EPBT Ramen Stop. Theme for this set is super spot on, says Kimchi Jody Boy.
I think he was talking about the Soju set while we were.
Oh, was he talking about Soju?
I
right.
think.
Okay.
I could be wrong. Okay. I could be wrong, but.
Yeah, Static Age mentioned Ramen Stop just a second later, so there we go. Yeah.
I mean, Ramen Stop was kind of interesting as well, but I think Soju's a little
interesting one. Yeah, it's interesting.
I think aesthetically, I prefer Soju.
Yeah.
Even though I've never had the beverage.
I think both are great.
All right, the Pokemon Kid is asking a question for you, Jay. When a vendor runs a group buy, do they normally buy extras? Should vendors have to buy a certain amount of a product to be in stock after the group buy has started shipping?
Okay, so the first part of that question, normally vendors will buy extras. I don't know any vendor that doesn't buy extras. They all have them in stock. What changes from product to product is how long that actually stays in stock. Sometimes they stay in stock for seconds. Sometimes they stay in stock for weeks. It really just depends on what that product is. But yeah, I don't think vendors have to. I think that my honest view on it is it's down to the vendor. They should be able to look at the product, how it's sold in group buy, where they think the market's going to be when that key set ships. It's up to them how much of their own money they want to invest for their business into producing extras. I think most vendors will know that there is value in producing extras of pretty much every product, and they will tend to leverage that where they can. But I don't think there should be any expectation for vendors to stock twice as many sets as what sells in the group buy, for example. I think that's the wrong expectation to have. The tying up capital for that long a period and then trying to do that for every single product that you run is an untenable position for anyone.
Yeah, it's hard to know, like we talked about earlier, it's hard to know what a set's going to be like a year from now when you actually have the extras available. It's going to be hard to know what the trends are going to be, what the fads are going to be, what people are going to be into at the time. So yeah, a lot of variables to consider, for sure. Kimchi did confirm he was talking about the soju, which is understandable since he has kimchi in his name. I assume that he is a fan of the Korean cuisine.
Yeah. I need to find that GMK cream cheese and chive. I'm sure that's what it was called. GMK.
I've heard of cream cheese and green, but I have never heard of cream cheese and chive. But cream cheese and green, I think, was a DCS set from many, many years ago. While you're looking for that, I'm gonna check out this next question.
You're right. It was GMK cream cheese on green. You are absolutely right. It was.
Yeah. It also had a DCS version first, I think. Because I think that's where I remember. I don't even remember the GMK.
Yeah,
version.
the listing was on Originative. I can find the Reddit thread. I'll put the link into chat. The Originative link doesn't work anymore. But
that's a classic colorway. That's as classic as like green tea or like Red Alert in our community. Cream cheese and green was really big at one point.
Yeah, the DCS version was, but I want the GMK version. That's what I want.
Nice.
That's what I want. I don't think I've ever seen anyone sell it on the aftermarket. I don't think anyone actually owns it. If someone prove me wrong, someone show me a picture of you owning this set, because I don't even know if it ever got made.
Does anyone in chat right now own cream cheese and green? By the way, for the record, I think cream cheese and chive is a way better name.
Yeah, cream cheese and chive. Yeah.
Anyways, while we wait for the one person that probably owns it that's watching right now, Poid has another question for us. Maybe it was touched on earlier, but thoughts on the fact of so many people doing their own renders these days versus when there were like 3 people doing them and the impact it has on accurately representing sets in group buy. I think there's a lot to unpack in that, not only that question, but just that topic as a whole. And that's something we do want to address in an upcoming show where we get maybe a couple people that are more color accurate inclined or more designer inclined on, and we can kind of have a discussion, because I mean, I'm not going to speak for Jay, but I feel like that's something that I couldn't address personally based on my experience in the community. But
what I can say quite confidently right now is that renders are a double-edged sword.
Huge.
They
double-edged
have
sword.
A massive potential to show what something could look like if done well, and what the designer's expectations are. However, they also then set expectations for what a real-life product will look like, and renders are not real-life products, and there will always be some sort of disparate match between the two, to a greater or lesser extent. They have such a duality to them, do renders, that I flip and flop between deciding that they're a good thing for the hobby or a bad thing.
And it's not even just the renders either, because you got to remember, a lot of people that are looking at these renders don't have color calibrated screens. So what they see in the render is going to almost always be way different to what they receive in person.
A lot of renderers don't have color calibrated screens.
Yeah, there's very little standard on something, which I think is really interesting. While we're starting to see, a service like Nebulance, for example. I don't even know. Does he have a name for it yet? I don't know what he's calling it. I know he was last looking for a name recently, but Nebulant's been working. He's very passionate about color sciences, and he's been doing a really good job. And he's been helping out multiple sets that have turned out super well. Bingsu turned out really well. A lot of people love that. Botanical is probably my set of the year. Among others, and it's I think people like him are doing a really good job, and it kind of begs the question, like, are we going to start seeing these kind of almost third-party services try to get the colors more accurate than they otherwise would be if it was just maybe a simple designer-vendor relationship, and people are doing things like you mentioned on non-calibrated monitors. It's hard. We're not always going to see the same thing, right? Like you might see something different from me, not only just because of like our eyes biologically, but on our screen as well. And it's too hard.
It's not just our eyes; it's our brains as well, right? Like like the color that you see as red and I see as red, we see the same things and we agree they're red. But the color that your brain interprets in your mind's eye, the way you actually perceive what you see, well, that might be my blue, or that might be my pink, or purple, or anything else.
Yeah.
And my red might be your green. We never know. I mean, well, maybe not you specifically, Brian, because you can't see red or green. But,
I can't see any colors. It's okay.
But yeah, we all like the colors that you see are just your mind's mental arrangement of those. The actual way that we see them and perceive them can be different from person to person, and that's why people like different.
People debating and arguing, it's almost always on if this color is good or this color is bad, if this combination of colors is good or this combination of colors is bad. It's like what colors are right and wrong, and who gets to decide this, because it's on some level it is biological as well, and there's not really anything else you can do about that. And the fact that there are other variables as well, like not everyone has the same color calibration settings on their monitor or their phone, or whatever they're looking at or designing on, and there's so many steps in the process and so many variables that I feel like spending so much time arguing about the colors it's not for me. But I understand why people do it. Sure. Anyways, yeah. But no, Puade actually, it seems like he wants to come on, and I think it'd be cool to have Puade on as well. We'd have Puade and maybe one or two other Keyset designers or color people on, maybe Nebula alongside them, and I think it'd be really cool to have people that actually know, obviously, a lot more than I do, talk about this particular topic.
I think we might be offline, Brian. We might be offline.
No way.
The stream just flickered a hell of a lot. People are putting F's in chat.
What is happening? Right, why does this keep happening? Servers have been borky lately.
Audio is back. Can you guys hear us? If you can hear us, type 1 in chat. Like just type 1 in chat if you guys can hear us, because we have no idea what's going on right now.
Yeah, I'm trying to rectify anything, but again, I don't like. There's nothing going wrong on my end. All my resources are fine. My internet's fine.
Gio says audio is working, but I'm not seeing anyone putting a 1 in chat, so I'm assuming it's not. Yeah, interesting. Audio only for me now, says Rotsbub. Okay.
Oh, you want to hear something interesting? We've dropped 0 frames according to OBS.
I don't think it's you. I think it's I think
Twitch
it's
again.
Twitch.
Didn't this happen like roughly the same time in last week though? I don't understand. Why is this happening? You can hear us?
Okay, so they can hear us. They're putting 1s in chat so they can hear you. You can still hear a lot of the voices. Okay, well, I guess it's as good a time as any. We caught up on the questions.
Yeah.
Maybe a good time to finish the stream if Twitch is having issues.
Yeah. If we're going to have issues, I guess now is the time to have them, to be honest.
But for me, Brian, you're frozen in the thinking man pose, so it's kind of an attractive picture.
Really? Okay. I don't have the live stream open. Everything in my OBS preview is fine. I've dropped 0 frames. All my resources are stable. It's gotta be Twitch.
Yeah, I think it is Twitch. Yeah. Okay, guys. Well, we're going to call it a day there. Thank you very, very much for watching. Please do come check us out on Sunday when we'll be doing a dual build stream. I know you can't see us right now moving, but we will be moving on Sunday. We'll have 2 build streams up at the same time. Brian will be building his tin. I'll be building mine. We'll have Leandron on there as well. So please do come check us out. Brian, what time are we doing that again? What times are we picking it up?
So we're going to be doing it at your standard Sunday block, actually, 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 Eastern, 8 UK. So it should be a relatively good time for everyone. Hopefully, it's on a Sunday, nice and casual. Like Jay mentioned, we'll have Leandrin there, just to kind of not necessarily guide us through it, because I think the build is easy enough. But we thought it might just be fun to have him along for company. He's a super nice guy, really, really great. He's just phenomenal to talk to, and it'll be kind of fun to have not only the designer and the vendor kind of just be behind us on these builds, and they can, he can see how stuff can turn out with us in real time. And it'll be pretty awesome. Twitch boycotting Todd Clack. No, apparently some other game streamers just went down as well. So it does seem like it's a Twitch issue.
Yeah, I think it is. Oh, video and audio. Okay, we're back. Video is back. It's working. Don't stop. Well, we've been streaming for a couple of hours now. It's about time we would normally close anyway, so it makes sense to do it. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. Brian and I have never done a build stream together before. It's something Man of Interest and you used to do a lot. I'm really, really looking forward to Sunday to do that. I've got my rig here set up to be able to stream it, so yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be a super good time. So definitely look forward to that. I'll post in the Discord today as well with a little bit more detail and stuff like that, so you guys can see that as well. But again, Sunday, 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 Eastern, 8 UK. That's when we're going to be going live, and it's going to be a very awesome, very special stream, something that we've never done before. So that's going to be pretty awesome. So look forward to that. Also, a quick shout out to Teal Technic for the tier 1 for 15 months. Thank you so much, man. Glad to see you around.
Thank you, Teal. Appreciate it.
Sorry you caught us at the very end of this. We were experiencing some issues with Twitch. So, anyways,
Twitch is experiencing some issues.
Twitch is experiencing issues. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching. We definitely really appreciate it. I think the episode went pretty well today. Hopefully you guys did as well. Of course, follow if you're not already, and look below the stream. You can check out some of our outlets. You can come join our official Discord. You can talk about, your favorite salsas, or, your favorite video games, or, even keyboards, believe it or not. So, yeah, come check that out, and hopefully you have a great rest of your night, everyone. I'm actually looking for someone to raid right now. Anyone have any ideas here? We raided, MechClicks is live, but we raided him last week.
Yeah, we need to raid someone
mix it up
a little bit different. I don't know who's live here.
Nothing against MechClicks, though, because that guy is incredibly genuine.
Oh, he's awesome. Yeah, he's awesome. Yeah. But
all right,
we can't raid the same person every week.
Makers and crafting. Let's see who's streaming right now, because I don't actually see anyone else. Bow Boards is building an AIO3 Meridian. I'm not sure who that is, but that's the only other... Are there only 2 keyboard streamers on right now?
There can't be. I'm used to seeing...
Like 4 or 5 or 7 or... Yeah. Okay, well, maybe we can check out Bow Boards.
Yeah, let's do that.
Alright, let me set this up. Bow Boards. Makers and crafting. I have no idea who this person is, so I'm sorry if the content is not up to everyone's liking here. But we'll go check them out. We'll start this raid, and hopefully they're awesome, and hopefully you guys go into the chat and say something awesome and say something wholesome, and we'll have a good time. So yeah, make sure to join us on